Hi, everybody. I'm Susan Fenema. I am the Chaos Eradicating Officer, that's CEO, of Beyond the Chaos. And I have with me today Bethany McClellan of Rapid Business Plans. Hey, Bethany, thanks for joining.
Hey, thanks for having me, Susan.
You want to give everybody a little background of what your business does and who you serve?
Sure. I have a company called Rapid Business Plans, and we write business plans and feasibility studies for companies that are getting SBA and USDA loans, and those are small business loans.
And as I recall, when we started working with you, I think it was almost 3 years ago at this point,
Sure.
you were really suffering from a lot of owner dependency in your business. So let's really set that stage for everyone. What was life like in your business, in your personal life? What kind of challenges were you running into?
So I had problems over the years with not having the right project manager in the right seat. And I would have periods of relief where I wasn't involved in producing our reports. I sometimes took over as project manager if somebody was on vacation or, we had somebody quit. And so, I would have periods where I would have some relief from, the day to day, but then I would just get right back into it when there was a personnel change. The other thing too is there were a lot of things, a lot of questions for me. I was a bottleneck for a lot of things. There were, various things that couldn't happen without my input. And so I really was unable to really step away from the business. And it really led to a lot of burnout for me a couple of years ago.
Yeah, that happens to so many small business owners. When you were in the midst of this, how did it affect your personal life? How were you, dealing outside of work, if you even had time outside work?
Well, so at this point in my life, I was a newlywed with my husband, and he had quit his job and come to work for my company. So you can imagine, we have a great marriage counselor, is what I'll say. And at that time, it was a lot of, I was working all the time. I couldn't get away. And Ross was taking on a new role in the company. So he always had questions for me. And I was just, really just, I barely wanted to sell business plans anymore at that point. And so, something needed to change. Something had to give. And so, you
Was
know,
was there a specific moment that you felt that, or did it just culminate in that feeling of burnout?
well, I had hired a coaching program, a pretty sophisticated coaching program, a couple of years before I had started working with you,
Mhm.
and they helped me scale the business. It went from just me, the one person. Hired my first two people. That was Larissa and Shannon, and then hired a bunch more people after that. And so they were instrumental in helping me, really scale the business. And part of the program was at some point, they said your business needs an integrator. And so early on, maybe, well, not early on, but probably as I was starting the scaling process with my business, I had hired an, a friend that during COVID, she needed a job. She had what I thought were the right assessment results, that she would be a good fit for project management or for our integrator. And she really, like, I couldn't articulate what I needed her to do because I just didn't, it was just a need that I didn't have yet. I wasn't quite at the revenue level or the level of production or busyness that would require that. And so fast forward a couple of years, and this coaching program said, okay, it's time to get an integrator. And the integrator, that role, really articulates processes and, helped us get organized with how we manage our work that we do. So this was something that I really needed help with. It's an area where I actually don't excel. So I'm really not good at project management or integrating, things like that. Just not my forte. And so the coaching program said to find an integrator, and I Googled, and you came up, and it worked out really well, actually. No complaints.
Well, that's
Actually, yeah, I can be a little more generous than that, but
there.
yeah, like changed my life. I actually was able to take 2023 off, really, essentially, and just with some helping with marketing messaging and just keeping my toes in marketing. I really was able to step away from the business and really just like decorate my house and like read a bunch of books. And, I did get a chance to do that. And I'm really grateful. So that when I came back full force in 2024, I was refreshed and ready to hit the ground running with our marketing.
That's fantastic. And so I imagine that during that transition, while you were stepping back, while you were getting that break, and when you got to focus on the growth part, the marketing part, did you start to kind of love your business a little bit more? Did you feel less like I don't want to sell business plans anymore?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I had new blood, new energy. I really felt, refreshed and renewed and able to, we go to a lot of conferences to get work. And so, really, not putting that burnout face on at conferences, because people could kind of tell. And I had a referral partner ask me at a conference, during my burnout year, hey, I sent, Jim Smith your way. How's that going? And I was like, honestly, don't know, kind of don't care.
Oh,
And yeah. And so, that really, I was probably less demonstrative than that, but you understand what I'm saying. Again, like I barely wanted to sell business plans. And now like I'm very enthusiastic about it. Enthusiastic about the people that we get to work with, the connections that we've gotten to make, and the difference that we're making too.
so before you were really in the day-to-day details, you were handling client problems when they arose, you were selling a little bit. And now mostly you're being the face of the company out there doing the marketing and being in front of people, building those relationships. Is that kind of how your job changed during that time?
Well, the beginning of 2024, actually, we had, you guys, the integrator and project management services and, the assistant and everything. We had you guys. Then the beginning of 2024, with the marketing, LinkedIn became my job. And so just really understanding, what's happening in our industry, in our world on LinkedIn, that really having the time to do that was invaluable to my business and helped me grow it. We grew, 45% in 2024. So
That's pretty impressive.
thank
When
you.
you first started stepping back and you had to let go of stuff, how did that feel? Did it feel messy or scary, or did it actually hurt a little bit? How did you feel about it?
Sure. I can think of an instance where I was working with our project manager and, um, client needed a rush on something, and I got the message that there needed to be a rush. And so I immediately jumped on it and started seeing if there was a team that could start working on it. And our project manager was like, hey, I've got this. Please don't reach out to people. And I was like, okay. And so, she just, you know, gracefully told me to back off, honestly. So
Which is sometimes what an owner needs to hear, right?
yes,
It's hard to separate yourself from I'm trying to help to
right.
I'm making a mess.
But I felt I did have to let go of the quickness that I have because
Mhm.
we give everyone on staff a Colby questionnaire. And the Colby questionnaire comes back with a 4-digit number. The third number is your quick start number. And I have a very high quick start number. So I'm ready to like move on things right away. And I just had to be like okay with I had to be okay with the fact that, things weren't going to happen like instantaneously. And just because I wasn't handling it right then didn't mean it wasn't going to get handled in a timely fashion. I had to kind of redefine what timely meant to me. And in a professional way, we can still be timely and it doesn't have to be, lightning fast, which is what, my comfort zone.
Don't have to drop everything and work it into a process where people are actually not, I guess, running around with their head on fire or their hair on
Right.
fire, and instead
Right.
working it into the right process. So, were there any changes that you implemented that surprised you with how much of an impact they made on how you felt about it, or how your business grew, or how things in the business were flowing better?
So there's been a synthesis of things happening. So we got all the project management onto teamwork. We have been communicating about projects and things on Slack. And then I got a team to help me with my dashboard. This is, Drea and Lane. And so they did a great job for me on this, this dashboard. And so what it was is it pulled in a lot of stuff from teamwork from our project management. So I was able to do job costing. I had wanted to know what my margins were per job for so long. And so having all these things in place, these tools, and getting enough, historical data, now I'm able to see like, hey, are we, margin wise, is this making sense? What's going on here? How does our, overhead percentage look this month versus last month? And, things like this. And so having all the tools in place where I can pull data from all these pieces of tech or spreadsheets or whatever and put it into, one, data location for me to look at. That really has been so useful for me in understanding where I'm at with my business and here's where I want to go. What do I need to do to get there?
I love that because data is so important to be able to make those decisions. And that is actually something we push all business owners in is know your numbers,
Yeah.
know how know what numbers affect your business. And if you're having to dig in and pull your own reports and sort through all the details all the time, it can make making those decisions take too long, or you don't even do it. You just say, oh, it's too hard to get the numbers. So we call those beachfront metrics. If you were on a beach and you just needed to take a quick glance at how's the business going today, that's what you look at.
Sure.
So I'm glad that that's working out with you. That's the Project Booth, by the way. That's the company that helped with the dashboards for Rapid. So what's life like now? I mean, I follow you on LinkedIn. It seems like you're just laying by the pool reading books all day.
Well, first of all, it's the beach, not the pool.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That's true. You are at the beach.
But no, I mean, yes, in 2023, I did have the opportunity to sit around and read a lot of books, and I'm still reading a lot of books. I'm just, outside of work time, and so my work time is really, but the difference is the work that I'm doing now is work that I love and that I want to do. It's work that's energizing for me. It's work that gives me a sense of purpose, and I really enjoy the work that I'm doing. And so it doesn't bother me. You know what I mean? In fact, I enjoy it. I enjoy it a lot of the times. I enjoy going to conferences. I enjoy the work that I do with marketing. And that's what I get to do now. And if I want to take a day off, I take a day off. Haven't had an extended vacation in a while, but that's been by choice. We, were able to move to a location where, the beach is really accessible. And so leaving town has not been the most pressing thing for us.
Maybe staycations better for you.
Yes.
Yeah. Is there been a result or a milestone, anything that you're like, wow, this is totally working. This has changed everything.
Yes. So, and with everything working, everything that leads up to this is really what I think is the important thing to note here. And so we have a lot of interns that work for us, folks that are really talented finance students for the most part. And all of a sudden, we have some of our interns that are going through some some of our counterparts in the industry and getting jobs in our industry. And so we've set up our business such that as a place of employment, we're also doing, not only are we, exchanging, money for, the services that we're getting back, but also we're teaching, our students things that they ordinarily would not have learned in school. And a lot of them are being led towards this career in, my industry, which is SBA lending. And so the other thing too is that as a place of employment, we are a great spot. And I'll just say this because we're always recruiting, but we're a great spot for very talented women that are getting back in the workforce after having children. We're a great landing spot for MBAs or CPAs that have the capacity for side work. And just, to be that to our staff members is, we couldn't have done it if everything was a mess, if everything was chaos, it would not, it wouldn't work. People wouldn't think it was a benefit to work here. And so just to have people get the benefit from working here as well as our clients getting the benefit of what we do, like for me, that's like, obviously a win-win-win.
I think it's important to give people a feeling of the scope. First, you're a virtual business. You have
Yes.
people all over the country working for you, interns as well as people that have that higher level of experience. Um, how many people you started with? Just you and somebody else? How did Rapid start?
Yeah, so Rapid was just me at the start. Shannon was on and off with me for a little while in the early years. Then I hired this coaching company, and immediately after I got introduced to them, I hired Shannon back and Larissa. And that was probably 5 or 6 years ago. And
So that's
now
three people,
three
two of whom
people.
were part time, right?
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
everybody that works with us is like a part-time contractor. And this is not anybody's full-time gig. Some people are, more part-time than others. But now, I mean, our headcount is kind of a moving target. We've had, I think over the summer, we had close to 50. Now we have about 40 people on staff. And that includes, layers, so we've got our more junior interns, we've got our more senior interns, we've got our, you know, um, interns that graduate. We've got our professional writers. We've got our, quality control people, our project management role. So we really have, the whole the whole structure that makes it work.
That's a lot of growth in 5 years.
Thanks.
It's I
You
mean,
help.
well, thank you, but I mean, you have to be driven to do this. This is not something that just accidentally happens. It has been very intentional in your mind,
Right.
of how it's been approached. Even the fact of getting help to help you grow it, has
Yes.
been very intentional, and I think that that is very important for owners to understand when they're trying to break free from that dependency, is that you can't do it all yourself.
Right.
I can't imagine if you were trying to manage those 40 people and all the clients and the marketing and the conferences and the sales all by yourself.
No, I would hate my life. I would not be married.
It would be insane.
Yeah.
Um, so if somebody who is listening later, who is on this meeting today, feels stuck, what's one small step, a first step they can take to start moving towards freeing themselves from their business a little bit?
Well, I have used this more in the past than I have lately, but I still use writing as a tool. And I
Mhm.
would write down, where am I right now? Like, I'm a bottleneck. People always come to me for questions. I hate questions, et cetera, et cetera. And where do I want to be? I want to be laying on a beach with a book all the time, like, which is like, not realistic forever, but like, once you get it out of your system. But I'm just saying, like, where do you want to be? So write down, where am I now? Where do I want to be?
I think that's a great step because then you can start figuring out, okay, so how do I get there?
Yes.
And I can tell everybody who is listening to this, Bethany is very willing and open to trust the people that work for her. She gives great feedback, and so she partners well with people too. So the give and take. I mean, you said earlier you have no complaints. I've heard some complaints through the years, but but they weren't. I'm not working with you anymore. It was,
No.
this isn't working. How do we fix it?
Yeah.
And that partnership has also aided in the growth because if you just started with, that didn't happen the way I wanted it to, then you would not be able to progress in the process development that helps
Right.
you get to where you are now. So I think that's important to note too, is that partnering with employees, outside consultants, whoever you're working with, is imperative to getting through that dependency stage because
For
it's hard
sure.
to let go. It's really hard to let go.
Oh, sure. I mean, years ago when I started with the coaching company, the company is called Bold Heart. They did a great job. But initially, when the company was just me, I couldn't imagine ever teaching anybody how to write a business plan. I was like, how am I going to really just impart this knowledge to someone else? And then as soon as I did it, I was like, this is great. I should teach everybody how to do everything.
And you did, pretty
Yes.
much. Because
Yes.
you don't have to execute any of the work anymore.
Right. Right. It's just if I choose to. That's correct.
Yeah.
Yes. And you're
So,
right. Production, not at all. And marketing, I don't have to execute if I don't want to.
so looking back, is there anything you wish you'd done sooner or differently?
I think the timing has been just right with, everything I've done. I, hired the coaching company right at the right time, right before COVID. Yeah, sure, I did hire some people too soon. So I would, maybe make some different hires along the way. And actually, sure, and that is maybe one thing I would change. Initially, I wasn't using assessments to put people in a seat. It was just like whoever was
Mhm.
nearby and available. And, halfway related or actually related to me. And I will say that having friends and family work for you has worked for me like 60% of the time. The rest of the time, I not going to work, but it has worked, in some cases as well. But uh,
What's the hard part about that? When the 60% that works well, that's great. What in the 40%, what should people be looking out for when they're hiring friends and family?
Well, and that's going back to the assessments. And so this coaching program had told me how to use assessments as a tool to see, is this a person that's really good with follow through and process? Is this a person that's really good, at taking things from start to finish? Is this a person that is good at engaging people? And so just having the right person in the right seat for us really made all the difference.
It really does. And I know hopefully, most of the people out there listening are hearing right person, right seat, because that makes a big difference. And you could have the right people, but if they're doing the wrong things, that
Right.
also is a challenge. So moving some people around, it doesn't necessarily hurt. Defining their jobs better sometimes helps too. Um, I've actually come to the end of my questions, but it looks like we have a question over here from the peanut gallery. How do I know if I'm too involved in my business operations? Is there something that you felt, Bethany, that made you realize it?
Sure. If I can't step away from my email, um, for at least a couple days, then there's a problem. If things are waiting on me to happen, that's not good. And so that's how you can be too involved in your business operations. It should operate independently of the business owner.
I think that's a good point. One of the things that I always look at is, can you take an unplugged 3-week vacation? Can you do that? If you can, you're probably pretty free. And those of you who have not yet taken any unplugged vacation, don't start with a 3-week one. Start with a shorter one and find out what's going on. Okay, here's another one. How do you handle employees who are resistant to change? Have you had to handle some of that, Bethany?
Sure. And some of that is here's how we do things around here. And, sometimes it's not always a fit. Uh, we had a salesman come on board that couldn't fit into our processes, and um, she's still a friend of Rapid Business Plans today. We sent her a nice bouquet of flowers on her last day, and we do things a certain way, and it's okay if you can't do it, or if the change is too much. It's okay. It's not a fit for everyone.
I think some other good tips with change are explaining to someone why they're doing the things that they have to
Sure.
do. For example, in sales, why do I have to enter everything in my CRM? I
Right.
know what I'm doing. Okay, but it's not all about you.
Right.
The owner needs the information, the dashboards. Somebody might need to come behind you and follow up. So explaining those kinds of things, I think sometimes helps get people on board
Sure.
with the change too. Okay, here's another one. How long does it typically take to achieve significant results? What was your experience with that?
Uh, I mean, I made like many leaps forward at a time. And so I think that the results can be pretty swift if you implement things in, kind of an organized way. But we move pretty quickly around here, and we see results pretty quickly too.
You are a quick decision maker and you do move quickly. And I think that
Yeah.
makes things go faster. I think it depends on how willing you are. You are not you, Bethany, but in general, the general you, um, how willing you are to invest and move forward and execute against a plan of change, as opposed to being hesitant or slowing things down. It really depends. I would say that for most people you could expect a pretty dramatic change in 6 months, though.
Oh, sure.
Yeah,
Yes.
no matter what. 3 months you should be seeing some changes. 6 months you should be like, oh yeah, this is exactly what I needed to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think with that, that's about all the questions we have today. Bethany, I want to thank you so much for sharing your experience. I think that being able to break free from owner dependency is what makes businesses grow. And it's what sets that owner free from the business that they started because they wanted freedom.
Right.
Thanks so much. Enjoyed talking with you as always.
Thanks for having me.